Blood, Guts, and Blu-Ray is part of Court and Parts,
podcast network featuring pop culture, TV, movie, and geek podcasts. Check out some of our other shows: Geek Gravy, We Got Five, TV Ate My Brain, and Get Real Movies at courtandarts.com.
Coming to you undead from Elm Street in fictional Haddonfield with a beautiful view of Crystal Lake, the podcast where every day is Friday the 13th and every night is Halloween. You are listening to Blood, Guts, and Blu-Ray, part of the Core Temp Arts Podcast Network. Here are your hosts, Bloodbath, Bub, and Brett667, the neighbor of the beast.
Blood, Guts, and Blu-Ray is the official horror movie podcast of the Core Temp Arts Podcast Network, the home of Talking Shondaland, That Pop This Life, We Got Five, Failure to Launch, and TV Ate My Brain. Go to coretemparts.com for more information. Rate and review and subscribe to Blood, Guts, and Blu-Ray on iTunes or listen on Stitcher, YouTube, TuneIn, and Google Play. Please, hit us up on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Tumblr. This is Blood, Guts, and Blu-Ray number 21. My name is Bloodbath.
And I'm Brett667, the neighbor of the beast.
And I'm Bub.
Music on this episode is provided by the Slasher Film Festival Strategy and Nightbirds. Happy Veterans Day to all those who served. Some gave all gave some. So let's just acknowledge the elephant in the room. We sort of go out of our way not to talk about politics on this show, and for good reason. This is a show about horror movies. It's not about Democrats or Republicans. All different types listen to this. And we don't want anyone to think they should be on the defensive when they're listening. So when we record this show, politics is the furthest thing from any of our minds. And after today, you will never hear us talk about politics at all. But this week a very divided country had a very divided election. Donald Trump won. I'm not going to speak for these other guys. They can speak for themselves. But obviously, I wasn't happy with the result. But we, as a country, we need to move on. The election was fair. There were no tanks in the streets. There were no secret police deployed to black bag voters at the polls. There was no coups or assassinations. There were no reports of even voter intimidation. Okay? I know that some of the people that listen to this supported Clinton, or they just didn't support Trump. And obviously you have some legitimate concerns about the next 4 years. You have a right, and you should apply that energy to being critical of his administration when he deserves it, and praise him when he does something good for the American people. Rooting for him to fail is a very selfish and stupid thing to do. Because if he is not successful in uniting the country, every part of it, men, women, black, white, Hispanic, LGBT, liberal, conservative, Republican, Democrat, indifferent, then we all lose. Okay? So take that anger. Remember how you feel now when you vote in 4 years. But don't hang on to it. Right? Do things you love doing. And I hope one of those things is listening to our show. But nobody can be sure. For the Trump supporters, or maybe you were just an anti-Hillary person, I know some of you also listen to our show. And look, we get it. Your voice has been heard. But do your best to be kind and gracious to those who did not support your candidate. It's their country too. They have a right to speak their mind in a way that's nonviolent. Remember how divided the country was before Tuesday. It's not going to change overnight just because the election's over. So give some folks a few days to vent. Not violently, of course. We're not condoning any violence unless it's fake violence on film. Think about what you would be feeling and what you would be doing right now if the election had swung the other way, which it could have. Think about that. It's all understandable. No matter who you are, the people on the other side are your neighbors. They're not your enemies. Please respect each other and remember, we're in an age where we're the young parents of America now. We're raising our kids in a very tough time. But they can come out of this on the other side and be better than us. They can treat each other better. They can fix some of the things we couldn't get to fix. or the things that we broke worse. So for their sake, let's provide a good example. That is all I'll ever say on that subject, and I hope that in 4 years we'll have a better election cycle that isn't such a goddamn traumatic event, because that's what this was. And I hope we as a country aren't as divided in 4 years as we are now.
Well, I thought you said it beautifully. Obviously, I was not on the Trump bandwagon, nor was I necessarily on any other party's bandwagon, but this is our scenario right now, and there's no petitions we can sign on fucking BuzzFeed or whatever websites you guys do, or change.org. We have to make the change ourselves. We have to be intelligent, smart, conversative, approachable. We cannot be what we despise the most. We have to listen and engage in debate and conversation together in unity. No matter what somebody thinks or what somebody believes, we have a new president now. And myself speaking, I've supported presidencies in the past. And it's been a long time, it's been a while since I've actually not supported my president in terms of initial election debates, and this is a time for me, myself, to reflect on that and understand that there are differences in the way that somebody believes holistically how a country should be run. That does not mean violence and offensive behavior and attacks on somebody's belief, because I feel very strongly about my own, but that would not lead me to attack. I want us all to band together as a country and make this country better, regardless of this scenario.
Agreed. Bruce, do you have anything to add?
No, man, it just sucks that everyone's not getting along, I just don't understand it. The guy's going to be your president. Get over it,
It stinks. If you didn't vote for him, it stinks. But, we have to... Again, he won. It was a fair election. He won. He was even surprised that he won. So, and
let's see what he does. Let's see what he does.
Let's give him a fair shake. He deserves it. He won the election. He at least gets a little time to get in there, figure out what the right thing is, what he thinks is the right thing to do, and execute. And if he can't execute, then we get somebody else in 4 years.
Exactly.
And hopefully the other party puts up a suitable candidate, and if they don't find a suitable candidate, it's because maybe Donald Trump is surprising all of us and he's doing a very good job, and we'll just see what he does. I have to be optimistic. My optimism is here because I have a daughter now. So let's move right into killer news, and I hope some of it is good news, because it has not been. It's been a traumatic week, and all I want to do is hang out with you guys and talk about C.H.U.D. And real quick though, if you were offended that we talked a little bit about this, fuck off. Okay, we're Americans too. We're gonna talk. We dedicated a small fraction of our entire internet existence to an election that happened this week. So
I told before you say Bruce, before you say Bub, I gotta say we did it tactfully. Like we're not we're not aggressive. We're just stating an opinion. If you believe that otherwise, fuck off. And Bub, what you got?
It's that time again. It's killer news with Bub on Blood, Guts, and Blu-ray.
Bub.
All right, the first one's a happy one, okay?
Yay!
So, all right, so Bruce Campbell is coming out with a follow-up to If Chins Could Kill. It's coming out August 8th, 2017 on Dun Books. It's called Hail to the Chin, Further Confessions of a B-Movie Actor.
Yes! This is great news.
Yeah.
Great news.
Oh, yeah. Excited about it, So, his last book came out about 15 years ago, and this is just going to take us through the last 15 years since he wrote his last book.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'll wait till you're
finish. Oh, yeah. No problem. The first one was amazing. So, I think this one's going to be even better. He's more in the, spotlight now,
Mm-hmm.
Ash vs. Evil Dead and, the Evil Dead remakes. I think it's going to be a great book.
Absolutely. And if you have not read this book yet, don't read it. Get it on Audible with him reciting it. It's even better. It's just it's like he's in his like pajamas sipping some whiskey, just talking about his life, like about all the trouble that he had on set and all the funny things that he needed to do and where he came from and stuff. There's some great Sam Raimi stories in it. So if you haven't read If Chins Could Kill yet, listen to it on Audible. I love Audible. And this is not an endorsement. I wish they would pay us to say it, because I am a frequent customer of books on tape with all the driving and stuff that I do around. I'm actually in the middle of Stephen King's It right now, and it's read by one of the guys from Wings.
Oh wow,
that sounds great.
And
that sounds great.
And it's really good. He does a really, really good job. Sometimes they're a little bit boring, but this one was really good. So if you get it on Audible, it's really funny, and I am looking forward to Hail to the Chin. Good, that was good news. What else you got?
All right. So I cheered you guys up first. The next two, not so cheery.
Gee, thanks, buddy.
Sorry, guys. I gotta lift you up and break you down. So the next one, the Walking Dead team is remaking An American Werewolf in London, and I love that movie, and I'm just not happy about them remaking it. Robert Kirkman is producing it, and then Max Landis is supposed to be writing and directing it. He did what was that? Victor Frankenstein.
Yeah. But I mean,
Well, hold on. Kirkman, is it Robert Kurtzman? Is that what you said?
Robert Kirkman. Yeah, he produces The Walking Dead. He's going to be producing this movie.
Oh, I think I'm getting him confused with Bob Kurtzman, and that's the special effects guy who did Evil Dead 2, and then he went on to direct Wishmaster and stuff like that. So is it going to be a series, or is it going to be?
No, it's going to be like it's going to be a big time, motion picture. It's going to be in the movie theater. Yeah. And I mean, I love the original. I love the original so much that I just don't see them redoing it well. I mean, because certain parts of it are just so campy and fun. It's like a horror comedy mix that I just don't see it working out.
No, I don't see it either. And I think when in the 90s when they did American Werewolf in Paris, which was horrible, that should have been enough. That should have been okay, this is hallowed ground. We probably shouldn't touch it. So, I mean, I'll see it. I'll go see it, but I'm in the same boat as you.
I'm gonna give it a hope, because at least it's somebody who's involved in horror. Even though I really don't agree whatsoever with the horror they're in right now, I'll see it, and I'll give it a fair chance.
I think one of these days I'm gonna watch, or if I have a long weekend or something, I'm just gonna watch as much Walking Dead as I can, and just live tweet the entire time.
Oh no, that's bad.
You know what you gotta do? What you gotta do is you watch the first episode, and then you watch the season finale, because everything in between is all filler.
Fair enough. What else you got?
All right, I got one more. It's also not happy news. Tippi Hedren, who was the star of the movie The Birds from Alfred Hitchcock. Mm-hmm. She's like an 84-year-old lady now. She just came forward this week saying that Hitchcock basically abused and sexually assaulted her during the filming of The Birds.
Oh, that's never good. God.
Right? I mean, the guy's been gone for a long time, but I mean, got this lady in her mid-80s coming forward saying that, he basically sexually assaulted her in a limo.
You know what? And the thing is, I'm of the mindset of I don't take that lightly. I don't try to discredit anybody who says that, because that's part of the, I think that's part of the problem. So Boy, what a bummer. Yeah, that's no good.
No, it's
No,
not.
I think,
didn't like it.
I guess next week, if there's any developments with that, if you could do us a favor and keep us updated, that'd be great.
Yeah, definitely.
Is that it?
Yep, that's it.
All right. Well, thank you, Bub. We'll be right back after a quick break. You are listening to Blood, Guts, and Blu-ray.
You are listening to Blood, Guts, and Blu-ray. Let us know what you think by reaching out to us. We can be found on Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram, or Facebook by simply searching Blood, Guts, and Blu-ray. To suggest a film or trailer you think we should discuss, or to comment on this or any other episode, send an email to bloodgutsandbluray@gmail.com. We will always get back to you. Thank you for listening to Blood, Guts, and Blu-ray, and enjoy the rest of the show.
Beneath the city of New York are living catacombs, an endless maze of subterranean tunnels, unfit for anything human. Unauthorized for anything experimental.
Hold it! There's something moving up ahead in the tunnel!
And unlikely to bring anyone down there. So, they're coming up. C.H.U.D. C.H.U.D. Check your basement and your bathroom. Keep off the street and try to hide. But remember, the dark is their place. The night is their time. And tomorrow, the only things living in the city of New York will be C.H.U.D. C.H.U.D. Cannibalistic, humanoid, underground dwellers.
And we're back. We're going to talk about C.H.U.D. It was released in 1984, directed by Douglas Cheek. Body count of 15, produced on a budget of $1.25 million, grossed $4.65 million at the box office. Pretty good for a B movie. Brett, do what you do.
Well, people are disappearing in New York City. Mostly, our homeless population is disappearing. Specifically, the underground individuals. The EPA is all over it. There's a lot of conspiracy going around, and the question remains: is there carnivorous beings living underneath the sewers that are taking our prized humans, slaughtering them and eating them? A photographer, a freelance, God, I can't think of his name, a freelance reporter and a chief of police are on the hunt to figure out what's going on.
All right. Well, I can't think of the reason why I picked this movie. I don't know. I like the name of it, and I'd only seen, actually, there's only one part that I'd ever seen in it. Like, I'd never seen it all the way through. It's a true confession here. I until I watched it for the show, I hadn't seen it from beginning to end. The part that I did see was the part with John Goodman's cameo in it, and I saw from there on. And I put
Great cameo.
the story together in my head.
Great cameo.
So we'll get to that. It's like probably one of the better parts. But I don't know, the cover, the box art really interested me in seeing it. It was like one of those ones that I knew that I had to see it. I had to, because it's like, you know, it was like a hole in the sort of collection. I wouldn't be able to look people in the face if they asked me, you know? So I needed to get it out of the way. And we did. So let's talk about it. Douglas Cheek, the director, has directed exactly one feature-length film, and it is this. Not bad. Not bad at all. I'm wondering if you guys agree that this is kind of a creature feature.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
Did it feel like a... This is an extended question, so just let me finish, because it's going to sound like I'm done, but I'm actually not done. So, did it feel like a Larry Cohen film with the police procedural stuff and the bleak urban setting and the secret plot, etc.? Because it felt a lot like Q the Winged Serpent meets The Stuff meets It's Alive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Good way to put it,
Yep,
actually.
definitely.
I liked it. I thought that this was a very good... A lot of the B movies are the same. I'm not accusing anybody of ripping anybody else off. That wasn't what I was trying to get at. But I like this. I thought this was a pretty good quality B movie. You got fairly good acting out of almost everybody in the cast. Everybody did a pretty good job. So they have that to hang their hat on. And it had very thinly veiled social commentary as far as like homelessness and poverty, and it reminded me a lot of the films I just mentioned, but it also reminded me a little bit of They Live. So what was your take? Let's go. We'll start with Brett.
Well, I was actually really excited to pick this movie, and Bubba will agree with me on this one, because this was a reference that I had never understood before I saw the movie. But in The Simpsons, they mention New York City as you can't judge it on the pimps and the chuds, and I never got the chuds reference, and
That's great.
Bloodbath, you nailed it on the head. Enjoyable schlock is what I thought of it. I'm like, this movie makes no sense. It is goofy, but it's serious, but it's funny, but it's not. And we can talk about the visuals and the practical effects later, but I enjoyed it for all its faults.
Yeah, I think it's downfalls that make it enjoyable. Bub, what was your take before we start moving forward on this?
I didn't want it to end. After an hour and a half, I was like, "That's it." No, I really like this movie. You know, it's got a good feel to it. You know, I mean, you know, basically, Cooper, he's just trying to do his photography stuff. You know, he's running around, and then all these crazy things start happening. You know, you got freaking toxic waste underneath the city, which we know it's there, but they're just bringing it to light. Yeah. You know, homeless people are looking for weapons. You know, this bag lady's like trying to steal a gun from a cop. You know, it's just a great movie. I really enjoyed it.
This movie is the prequel to Home Alone, just so everybody knows that.
Yeah, there's
oh man,
2 people from Home Alone in this movie?
I think it's 3.
I'm so glad
it's
you
3.
said that, because you said no conspiracy tonight, and I was like, how is he not going to make the Home Alone connection?
That's not really a conspiracy, but I mean, like John Hurd and the dude who's the other guy that like robs the house. I can't think of his name. Marv. Yeah, Marv. Daniel Stern as Marv, and a very young, suspiciously weird-looking, normal-looking, actually Marv. It's hysterical.
You don't think that all this shit throws down in New York City? You don't think Cooper has to move to Chicago, leave that chick, and become Mr. McAllister? Come on.
Look what you did, you little jerk.
And you don't think that... Yeah, right? And you don't think that the Rev is over there as Marv, trying to steal some more pictures out of his house? That's what the Wet Bandits are doing.
That's what the Wet Bandits are doing. We'll come back with the dark. Yeah,
I might have missed
the dark too, Marv.
Oh my god.
You had one.
I didn't
you
know.
Just didn't know it was in you.
You're right. You're right. I agree. I didn't know it had it in me.
I thought some of the homeless people played in the movie did a pretty good job.
Miss Monroe was great.
I'm referring to the ones that had speaking roles. I also like the guy who, at one point, rants and yells at Captain Bosch in the soup kitchen. I thought he was sort of freaky. He did really well.
I thought he set it up really well with the whole 4 demons on each side by the throne, and the sky is falling. He was really disturbing.
Bosch, I think, was my favorite character in the show. Or show. Jesus, movie. Wow. I think it's because all the other cops are just terrible. They're just all terrible cops, and he's a good character. His chemistry with Daniel Stern, Marv, is excellent. I thought he was he reminds me a lot, and probably because of his occupation in the film, reminds me a lot of David Carradine from Key the Winged Serpent, which we as a group really all liked. It was a movie that we all enjoyed, and I think that's probably part of the reason why we enjoyed this one so much. Daniel Stern did a really, really good job in this movie at like convincing you that he is just some vagrant and vagrant hippie, and then he's like, "Oh no, I was a nuclear physicist." And then he does not.
And they never touch on that after that.
They never touch on it. It's so funny. And like,
I love how he's all.
The,
I'm telling you, it's crazy, man. I love when like he's like washing his hands at the spigot in like the basement, and he just has a towel set up. Like, yeah, I just do this all the time. This is where I bathe.
He was really, really good. I'm glad that I was really glad that he was in this movie. There's one one of the funnier parts for me, or one of the parts where I thought that he was really good. The fellow who played Bosch was really good, was when they sort of had that meeting with the guy from the Nuclear Regulatory Commission and the police commissioner, and there was, it was Bosch and AJ, and I don't even know who the other guy was, but they were all sitting down and they're trying to figure out like what's going on, and
Wilson,
the nuclear guy, is just like denying. Yeah, yep. Wilson. Yeah, he's just denying everything, and like Daniel Stern just sort of has a freak out moment, and he's like, "I'm going to the press," and then Wilson sort of exposes who he is by he just picks up the phone and he's like, he starts describing him, and they're like, "Yeah, stop him." To what we can just assume is like a Secret Service,
aka random guy in aviator glasses and a red fucking polo.
Yeah, and he goes up to it. So Daniel Stern goes to use a payphone, and then he hangs up the payphone, takes the quarter out, and eats the quarter. That was great. Awesome. That was amazing. Who doesn't love that part? That is one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
Well, every time Daniel Stern on camera is hysterical. He's phenomenal through this whole entire film because he's such a goofball / serious character that you don't really know which one you're getting every single time he's on set. Like you don't know if it's gonna be a gag or if it's gonna be a serious revelation, like like you said, the photos that he throws out, and that whole interrogation scene at that table with the EPA and all that kind of stuff. He's super serious, and he's super like lovable when he talks about his people as his family. And then I know where he's fucking hysterical. Like, great performance from him.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. You guys want to take a minute to talk about what the C.H.U.D looks like?
Sure.
Because I feel like that's an important thing that we should touch on, and I have mixed feelings on the appearance of the C.H.U.D, and you alluded to us, we were going to talk about practical effects and stuff. So my first impression is that I sort of like that it looks like a B-movie creature from the Black Lagoon type thing.
Oh yeah, I like it.
But then at times it looks more like a Power Ranger villain.
Yeah. Exactly.
Like a guy in a suit, and I'm interested to hear what your take is on that. Bub, go ahead.
You know what I thought it kind of looked like? Like, it looked like a shitty version of the monsters in The Descent. Right? Yep. Like with freaking bulb eyes. Like it's like they wanted to do the monster from The Descent, but they just couldn't nail it, you know. And they're like, all right, well, this is good enough.
Well, I agree because like there's that one scene where the Reverend is in the sewer and he catches them doing some sort of ritual, and I feel like in that scene they show some different CHUDs in the background that have like almost kind of, I don't really have a way to explain it, but like sword arms. Like they look a little bit they look like they vary a little bit, and then they never show it again. They all look the same, and I'm kind of like, oh god, this is a missed opportunity. I'd love to see where the radiation went and how it changed each individual quote-unquote human in the film. But they're all the same glowy-eyed, weird, twisty-necked, like... Which, by the way, the twisty neck thing I did really like. But they were cool. They were fun. Their gloves were fucking terrible when they would go... Like, awful. But I enjoy when they were on the scene. For the little bits they were there and they were shown, I enjoyed them.
The part that you're alluding to is actually probably my second favorite part in the movie, and I want to posit this hypothesis to you, and it's so. Let's just describe that again. Daniel Stern is kind of walking around he's in the sewer, and he's on like a concrete ledge. And it's an older concrete ledge, so he steps on a weaker part and the concrete breaks. He doesn't fall, but it makes a noise, and then all the CHUDs stop what they're doing and they turn and they look in his direction, right? It reminded me very much, and I would if I ever got the chance to sit down with Danny Boyle, I would love to ask him this question. In 28 Days Later, when Cillian Murphy goes into the church after he has gotten himself out of the hospital and he doesn't see anybody around in London. He goes into a church and he sees all these bodies stacked up and he says, hello? And then as soon as he said, before the syllable even leaves his mouth, a bunch of infected just pop up and they look right at him, which to me is one of the scariest parts of the whole movie. And in the exact same way that the CHUDs look at Daniel Stern. So I wonder if Danny Boyle had a little bit of admiration for this film, and like, I mean, the setup is the same. It's urban decay. It's a disease that the government sort of founded, created, and then unleashed onto the public. And the only difference is that there's no CHUDs doesn't have an evacuation. CHUD doesn't have an evacuation. 28 Days Later does have an evacuation. And then there's that isolationist part of it that element doesn't, those elements aren't the same between the two films. So I'm wondering if he borrowed that setup from CHUD.
Well, actually, you bring up a good point in terms of the sound, because the CHUD sound effects are great. I love the Geiger counter, and I love the sound effects that the CHUDs actually make, but other than that, the sound in this movie is terrible. It's god-awful.
How so? Are you talking about just the recorded sound?
Just like when John Hurt or Cooper is fighting with the homeless, and out of nowhere the Reverend shows up and punches him. There's no sound effect. It's like a pop. He punched him.
Okay, so I know what you're talking about.
So the sound in this movie is terrible. It's deplorable almost. But they nail the CHUDs in a weird way. Like the CHUDs themselves are the greatest part of this movie. But the sound is terrible for the rest of the movie. And
I agree.
And the soundtrack.
I think that the soundtrack is okay. I think it's cheap. It kind of takes me back to and makes me think of like almost a trauma film. I mean, at this point,
I didn't mind it.
Yeah, we're 21 episodes in. I think everybody knows how huge of a trauma addict I am.
Yeah.
But I agree with you as far as some of the sound effects, because one of the things I'll get to it later. Yeah, I don't want to. I'll allude back to what you said.
Okay.
Let's talk about the shower scene, because that is one of the scenes that just makes absolutely no sense, and they could have cut it out completely.
Oh.
One of the problems with this film is that it is probably about 15 minutes too long.
Yes.
It gets a little difficult. You know what I mean? It's okay. It doesn't. It's not one of the things that, you know, a lot of times I'll say, hey, this movie's too long. It's sort of detracting from it. It doesn't. The length of it didn't really make me go, oh. At that point, usually when I say something like that, the movie is already bad. It's bad, and then the fact that I have to sit through it for another 45 minutes to an hour, it just makes it worse. But this one's a bit long, and one of the scenes that they probably could have cut out was that shower scene, which made absolutely no sense.
Which had no response to her, like getting a fucking hanger and fucking with the drain and having blood splatter on her face. She's just like, oh, we're gonna watch TV now.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was super weird.
It was a super weird thing. So, like, what did she do? She finds the dead dog hanging from a belt in the basement, and we know that the dog belongs to the wife of Captain Bosch. We know this. She doesn't know that. So a little bit of a dramatic irony there. She calls the police. She's like, I found a dead dog. I need somebody to come check it out. And they presumably say over the phone, okay, we'll send a couple guys over. And she decides to go in that time to take a shower, which doesn't really make too much sense to begin with. But okay, so she decides to do that, and I guess the water is not going down the drain, and she sticks a hanger in there because that's your first thought is to stick a hanger down the drain.
Oh yeah, obviously. Plumbing.
And then blood just it just gushes out, Evil Dead style, all over her, all over the bathroom, everywhere. And the next time, and then, you know, it's kind of like the filming sort of slows down. It goes like a little bit like slow motion, and then it cuts the scene completely. And the next scene we see her, she's all cleaned up. There's no blood on her, and we don't even know what the fuck that was. If it had anything to do with the C.H.U.Ds at all. You know what I mean? It didn't make sense to me, and I thought that part in itself did detract from the score. I guess my Scar score. What was your guys' take on that? Well, we already heard Brett's take. Bob, what's your take on that?
I mean, you know what? I mean, I liked that part where the blood hit her. You know, I thought, oh, that's cool. She's just trying to like pull some hair out of the drain or something, thinking that's clogging it up. But the way they executed it, like, it looked good, but like you said, it didn't tie into anything. Like, if like the C.H.U.D, like those monsters, if they like went on like smelling blood and that's how they get you, that would have been kind of cool.
That would have been cool.
You know?
Yeah, that would have made sense. Yeah, absolutely.
You know, like now she's fucked. She's got blood all over her. They're gonna burst into that bathroom and it's done. You know, but like you said, it didn't tie into anything. You know, so it's kind of like, that was cool, but you know, make it count.
Absolutely.
And that's like one of the missed things is that throughout the entire film they allude to the C.H.U.Ds being more intelligent and fucking with the gas, as in the Reverend Shepard's gas tank and the drain, and they never really show them doing that shit, especially with, which I think Bloodbath, you're gonna bring this up, that really stupid missed opportunity with the fucking kid at the basement door of her apartment.
I wasn't gonna bring that up. Why don't you go ahead and expound on that?
Well, I really thought that was a great scene. I was like, oh shit, is this movie gonna really bring it into total horror? Because there's a little kid that in the apartment that the photographer's wife lives in. There's a C.H.U.D that's coming out of the basement, and at that point, there's a little kid that's behind a locked door, playing with a ball, and then playing with a fire truck. And the C.H.U.D is banging on that door, and I'm thinking to myself, "Oh my God, this is going somewhere. This is gonna bring some type of true horror." I'm not saying I want to see the kid get fucking mutilated, but
you want the kid to get mutilated.
I did.
I get it. Yeah.
I totally did.
You did.
I totally did. As much as I wanted to see the shower scene be more than just blood and okay, let's watch an old tube TV. And this movie, as enjoyable as it is, misses a lot of easy opportunities. They set it up, and then they fucking fail. they fail on all parts, which is disappointing because it's so enjoyable throughout the entire scene to watch these movies. To watch this movie, it's so fun and it's so almost lighthearted in a weird way that you want a payoff, and the movie does not deliver that.
Agreed.
You wanted it to be like The Conjuring 2, where the kid rolls the fire engine into the tent, and like there's a C.H.U.D sitting at the door, just rolling it back to him.
Exactly. yes, I agree. No, I don't want the C.H.U.D rolling a fucking fire truck back. I want a C.H.U.D with a goofy fucking like glove arms strangling a child. It sounds terrible, but this is a horror movie, folks. Let's get on the same page.
I wanted the C.H.U.D to pick up the kid and bite the kid's head off.
Yes.
That's what would have been awesome. That would have been great. It would have been terrifying and scary, and that would have been great.
I feel like somebody played it a little bit safe, even though they set up the non-safe route.
Agreed.
I wanted the C.H.U.D to come through the door, and you find out that C.H.U.Ds can't eat kids, and the kid and the C.H.U.D to become best friends, and then the movie just goes in a whole different direction.
Would have been great. I would have taken
that.
The sequel's called Bud the C.H.U.D, so maybe I didn't see it. Maybe anything's possible.
I did look into the sequel. I'm like, I kind of want to watch this.
I thought the diner scene was really cool. You got a really neat cameo out of John Goodman, who doesn't love John Goodman? Everybody loves John Goodman.
And John Goodman playing a non-John Goodman role as a Lothario, like a Lothario fucking
wise ass.
Yeah, horny motherfucker.
Yeah, what did she say to him? She's like, "You're looking for it." He's like, "Yeah, I just haven't found it yet."
Yeah, I never get it. I never get it. I just haven't found it yet. You have nice
I've been looking
legs.
for it all my life. I just never get it. That was great. I love that part. He's so good. He's great. I love Roseanne. He's awesome.
Oh yeah.
But also so aside from the fact that we all think John Goodman's great, it's also a pretty scary part. I mean, they're just sitting there eating, and then the next thing you know, the C.H.U.Ds just kind of walk up to the glass and just break the glass and kill everybody inside, while these two homeless guys are drinking a bottle of booze on the outside, looking in. But again, so that was a cool scene and it had a great setup, but he did next giving you a fucking bloodbath in there. They could have showed you something. You didn't see anything. You don't really see anybody get mauled. I gave a body count of 15, but you don't really see 15 bodies. You see a couple bodies in the sewer, but you don't really see anything. They just allude to the C.H.U.D, which is we didn't even say it, did we? A cannibalistic humanoid underground dweller. Which also has we find out later when the Reverend and Cooper, when they find the toxic waste in the sewer, C.H.U.D actually stands for contamination hazard on urban disposal.
Yeah.
So it has like a, they fudged it a little bit. All right. It was just I think that was a missed opportunity.
I agree, because I felt like even though the visuals for the C.H.U.D are pretty silly, I wanted to see some like nasty nails in somebody's throat. Like it was so set up to be disgusting and gross and bloody and gory, and they never fulfilled on that promise. Like, because it was totally like the stage was set. It was there for the taking, and kind of disappointing results.
Yeah, in that regard, absolutely. They could have made up for the visual effects of the C.H.U.D by goring it up a little bit more. Not even you didn't have to go crazy with it. You can do a little bit, but I don't know. I wanted more.
I kind of like the fun of the visual of the C.H.U.D. I thought it was great. I really did like the C.H.U.Ds. They were fun. They were kind of goofy. The whole bright eyes, and when they cut the head off. Who cuts the head off? I can't remember right now.
His girlfriend.
His girlfriend.
Cooper's girlfriend. The mom from Homeward Bound.
The mom from Homeward Bound cuts the head off the C.H.U.D, and the lights just dim from the eyes. I can take all of that. If I got to see like some fucking nails go through some eyes, or go through a throat, you're right. They kind of cut the scenes, especially even when Cooper and the freelance reporter, whose name I don't remember, go into the sewers and he gets carried away by a C.H.U.D. They really fucked up that scene because they only showed like Cooper trying to grab his like ankles to save him, and then all of a sudden Cooper's deeper into the caverns. I'm like, no, I want to see a mutilated body. I want to see some fun. Give me something for this movie.
Well, take like let's just we compared this early on to Q the Winged Serpent. We both agree that the visual effects of Quetzalcoatl were terrible. But what they did was they made body parts fall from the sky.
Yeah.
And that sort of made up for it, Like it was like, okay, well, we're gonna do that. We're gonna replace we're making a schlock movie. This is C.H.U.D's a schlock movie. We're making a schlock movie, so let's not half-ass about it, And
agree.
Yeah. So that's one of the. I think that's one of the major downfalls of the movie. I do love the scene that you brought up where Cooper's girlfriend gets a buccaneer sword like out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And then chops the head off the C.H.U.D while it's extending its neck to eat her. I thought that was fucking cool as shit. That was the cool part.
Yes.
I love how the C.H.U.D came through the wall. You thought he was going to come through the door? He comes straight through the sheetrock.
Great. So there's that, and so I mentioned before, you mentioned the sound effects before, Brett, and I think that one of them that I absolutely despised was the sort of fight scene between Bosch and Wilson. We're at a point now where Bosch is like, like AJ and Cooper they're trapped they're in the sewer, and they're about to just load the sewers with gas to kill all the C.H.U.Ds, and because Wilson's trying to cover it up. We know that he doesn't work for the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. He works for some higher federal government thing.
It's like FDC or whatever acronym they assign.
Yeah, and that he's like kind of not who he says he is, and he's trying to basically, he's trying to cover it all up, And Bosch is like, I'm not gonna let you cover it up. It's too late now. You can't go back. Like, give me the keys to the truck so I can move the truck and let these guys out of the sewer. And Wilson pulls a gun on him, and Bosch hits him, and it's like the worst sound effect, the worst fight scene you've ever seen. It's not even a fight. I mean, he hits him and he goes down. And then he makes the biggest rookie mistake of all. He hits the guy who pulls the gun on him, grabs the keys, doesn't disarm the guy or take the gun away from him, and then, of course, later gets shot. I mean, that's day one stuff right there.
The ending in itself is moronic.
That doesn't take a genius. Yeah.
That was a good shot. That was a good shot.
You just think he's dead?
I thought he was dead until he talks.
Nice shot.
Yeah, he says it like over and over again. He's like, nice shot.
Yeah, I thought that the ending was a little silly. And then, of course, they allude to... So he shoots Wilson while he's driving the truck. Wilson, of course, now he cannot operate the truck because he's been shot. Not presumably dead, but, you can't really be sure. And then he sort of drives the truck into the manhole, and then the truck explodes. Okay.
Because there's explosives underneath it for some reason.
Right. And then there's gas in the sewers, so you assume that now all the CHUDs are burning up, and the smoke is going into the atmosphere. So I guess like all that nuclear waste and that contamination is now going into the atmosphere. And then they cut to credits, and that's it. So if you think about it, the way they built it up for a sequel was good. And it was got that bleak ending where, yeah, okay, the characters lived, but like there's more, there could be more problems to come. I thought that was okay. That aspect of it was good. But the ending in and of itself, where like a truck just basically exploding out of nowhere, and that was just dopey. I thought that was dope.
Yeah, I totally agree.
I was trying to make things up in my mind. I was like, oh yeah, like maybe the undercarriage of the truck scraped against the manhole, and the sparks from it made it explode.
Could be.
But, that's me looking too much into it.
Justifying what you just saw. Yeah, I get it.
Trying to find an ending to a good journey is pretty much what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I want this to work.
Sometimes the path is the destination, So, we've basically gone through our highs and our lows for this film. We're going to take a short break. We're going to come back and rate C.H.U.D. You're listening to Blood, Guts, and Blu-ray.
You are listening to Blood, Guts, and Blu-ray. We are dedicated to bringing you the show across your favorite medium. We can be found on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, and YouTube. Please send all suggestions to bloodgutsandbluray@gmail.com. Thank you for listening.
All right. It's time to do that thing that we do at the end of every episode. Rate it. Start with Bub. Bub, what will you rate 1984's C.H.U.D?
I gave it a 3.25.
A 3.25? We've never gotten that.
Whoa!
I was gonna
that denomination into it.
Against
I was
those
gonna
laws,
give it a
dude.
I was gonna give it a 3.5, but that guy ate the quarter.
Yes.
Wow. Wow.
So dry.
Everything
Such
got
dry
turned on
humor
its
on
head.
this show.
I'll allow it. I can't come back from that.
Me neither.
Brett, what do you got?
I give it a 3 out of 5 scars. It's extremely enjoyable. It's so much fun. It's kind of sincere, extreme flaws, but 3 out of 5. I genuinely enjoyed watching this film from start to finish. The finish is a little debatable, but 3 out of 5.
I went 2.5 out of 5. I think it's I think it's a little underrated. I think it's very, very underrated. But it is a film that doesn't take itself too seriously. As far as B movies go, it's a fun film. As far as I know, it's got like a 17 on Rotten Tomatoes, which is just like wrong. That's pretty harsh.
Oh yeah, it deserves higher.
Yeah, that's not fair.
They took it as a serious horror movie.
Yeah, you can't take it too seriously. I think you don't have to be a strict horror fan to appreciate a film like this. Anyone who appreciates B movies in any genre can get into it. There's some science fiction elements. There's some crime conspiracy elements, like thriller elements. There's some horror elements. It's a real middle of the road film. It is for everybody. It's pretty safe. If you're squeamish, it's not going to make you so sick. So it definitely has some potential. So it's definitely something I would buy and then I would watch again for sure.
Yeah, it was a good movie.
So,
hey, you know what kind of bugs me out a little bit? Right? Like, this movie came out in 1984, right? Like, how did Daniel Stern go from being like this like hippie dude, like who's serving like soup at a soup kitchen, to like being like the dad in Little Monsters like 4 years later, who's like, who left their fucking bike in the driveway? He looks like two completely different guys. It's just 4 years.
How did he go from that to being the pitching coach for Henry Rowan-Gardner in Rookie of the Year?
Right.
Some questions just don't have an answer.
Or how could Lieutenant Bosch lose his wife and be like, yeah, she's dead, but monsters.
Yeah, that was another thing that I thought was a detraction from the film. Like, if I lost my wife, I would be devastated, and I wouldn't. He seemed very, very calm and nonchalant, and you know, sometimes in film they'll show that, but it's like you can clearly see that the person is in like a state of shock.
Yeah,
you know, and sometimes they go they go booze up, and that's totally understandable too. I get that, but
his wife is missing through the whole entire film. He's like, he only gives that one scene where he's like, they took my wife, and then Freddie Mercury finds his wife's head, and he's just like, they're like, get him out of here. And he's just like, okay, well, I'm gonna find out this C.H.U.D, and I'm like, shouldn't you be more upset about this whole entire scenario about finding your wife's head at a dock by Freddie Mercury? This is a problem. Nope, totally fine.
That's the part.
And then Freddie Mercury offered to sing him a song, and he went, "Mama."
Right when they're like, that's his fucking wife, they should have started playing that song. I want it all. I want it all.
I see a little cheddar of a man. Got a moosh.
Oh God, they could have gone really weird and played Seaside Rendezvous because they found her by the shore.
Seaside Rendezvous. Oh man.
So next week will be episode 22. As we did 11 episodes ago, we are going to cover part 2s of a film franchise. So we're going to talk about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2, and we are going to talk about Thanksgiving 3. Now, before you jump down my throat, I've only seen the first Thanksgiving movie, and I know, based on what I've read on the internet, Thanksgiving 3 follows Thanksgiving 1, and Thanksgiving 2 is a picture within Thanksgiving 3. So it's just weird. I don't know. I'm looking forward to talking about it and seeing how it goes. So I think it's gonna be a fun episode. And of course, Thanksgiving is coming up, so it'll be the last episode that we do before the Thanksgiving holiday, and then we're going to move into maybe the worst time of the year, which is Christmas.
Yeah.
Actually, it could be worse. Imagine Christmas, but it's hot out. Imagine that. That would be terrible. That would be the worst. All the people in the mall, all the people in all the fucking stores, and it's 90 degrees outside. That would be terrible. That would be hard.
Christmas in July.
Fa ra 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 ra.
Horrible. Anyway, guys, thanks for listening to our humble little program. We're 21 episodes heavy now, and we wouldn't be doing this if nobody was listening and if we had nobody that was, supportive of us. So thanks to Core Temp Arts, thanks to you guys, thanks to our families and our kids for letting us do this once a week. We definitely enjoy it. We will see you, or we won't see you. We never see you. You'll hear us next week. Toodaloo.
Good evening.
Nice shot.
Thank you for listening to Blood, Guts, and Blu-ray. Written and hosted by Bloodbath, Bub, and Brett667. Edited and produced by Bloodbath. Music has been graciously provided by the Slasher Film Festival Strategy and Nightbirds. Artwork and logo have been provided by Bub. Blood, Guts, and Blu-ray is available on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, and YouTube. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, as well as @BloodGutsBluray on Twitter, @BloodGutsandBluray on Instagram, and visit our Tumblr page by going to bloodgutsandbluray.tumblr.com. For any questions regarding the show, advertising, or anything else, please send an email to bloodgutsandbluray@gmail.com. Thanks again. Get possessed.